Yeah,
What's
we
that?
didn't excuse him. We didn't, oh, yeah, we did excuse him. I'm sure he's almost as tall as I am.
Well, good evening and welcome to the Federal Way City Council meeting for February 18th, 2025. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you everybody for being here. All right, so as many of you know, we had, well, in this nation, we've had quite a number of natural disasters, one of which probably, just in regard to history, is one of the most devastating fire incidents, natural disasters in the history of the United States. It happened, obviously, several weeks ago in the hills of Los Angeles, one after another after another. And really, I mean, you haven't probably seen this kind of dramatic fire damage probably since the 1907 earthquake and fire of San Francisco that would really match that level of damage. We're very, very fortunate to have a tremendous world-class fire department in South King Fire. Many of the members are here this evening, and we're here as mayor and council and city staff and a community to recognize four very exemplary members of that fire department who traveled down to Los Angeles, down to the area just north of Los Angeles, and we'll have them describe it, fighting those fires, helping out those residents. It's on a scale that is very difficult to really wrap your head around in regard to neighborhood after neighborhood. But instead of me describing it, hopefully we'll have some of our personnel here talk about what they observed. But why don't I call them up to the podium? We've got a lieutenant that is the leader of the group, and then the other individuals that we'll identify and have them come up, ask them to say a few words, and then we'll do a group picture. But I want you to know, on behalf of the entire community, of over the 101,000 souls that call Federal Way home, and for the area, for the people who live in the greater Federal Way area, as well as points beyond, you have our deepest gratitude, respect, and thanks for the sacrifice you made, not only that you do every day, that you and your compatriots and colleagues take on every day to race toward danger where others race away, but to literally drive down there and help out our neighbors. And it'd be interesting to hear, I heard there were some folks, some firefighters from Mexico, from all over. It would be interesting to hear about the scale of the response. With that, we're here to recognize the South King Fire crew who assisted with the Los Angeles area fires. The crew, Lieutenant Greg Willett, Engineer Ryan Dupras, Firefighter Tyler Morris, and Firefighter Chris Clark. And Deputy Chief or Acting Chief Crossan was not able to attend this evening, but let's give them a big round of applause and have them come up to the podium. All right, maybe Lieutenant, let's have you start off. I know everybody, no one's a big fan of public speaking, but gentlemen, if you could maybe talk about your experiences. Lieutenant, if you could tell us, what was it like, when you got first word that you were going to go down? How was this crew selected? How long did it take you to drive an engine down there? What was that like? And then when you arrived, what was that like? And try to give us a little bit of an impression of it.
Well, okay, so make sure you can hear me. It was organized chaos at first. I got off shift right here because I work in the marshal's office, and pretty much was asked to be a part of the deployment, and then basically I didn't go home. I just went and packed my bag and was ready to go the next morning. We left pretty early. It's the 2-day drive down. And then we really didn't know where we were going to be assigned almost to the last minute. So There were, the Eaton fire and Palisades fire, and at first we thought we were going to go to the Eaton fire, and then we ended up going to Palisades almost, like at the last minute. And so from the very start, we were, when we arrived at the Malibu camp, our check-in was pretty short, and then we were on that fire, basically protecting homes up by, was it Manville Canyon? Manville. Yeah, Manville Canyon, which is the upper part of Palisades. And we could see the fire over the hill. It was pretty late at night by the time we drove up there, but it was still kind of smoldering through the town. So you could still see cars burning, homes smoldering. But the neighborhood we were assigned to hadn't been basically touched by the fire yet. And so the fire was coming over the hill that night. And then by morning, it dropped down into the canyon and really flared up. And we were assigned, so basically there were 11 strike teams from Washington that went down. And so wherever we were assigned, our strike team stuck together, which was 5 engines and a battalion chief. And so we were assigned one side of the street, and as the fire came over in the morning, we were basically protecting the homes that were most vulnerable at the top of the canyon. And so there's quite a bit of fire, quite a few airdrops. That was at least 100 right where we were. And so we spent, it felt like about, from the time we got up that morning to drive there to the point where we got time off was about 36 hours. So it was a long shift, but then the way it works is then you are allowed to have 24 hours off, and then you go back for a 24-hour shift. And so we were assigned different areas every shift that we worked. We basically went to the other side of the canyon and made sure all the hot spots were out, so it's considered mop up. And then after that, we were assigned different neighborhoods to basically triage the homes in different parts of Palisades. So we had a lot of different types of tasks and jobs. You just showed up and did whatever you were assigned, and we were happy to do it. And it was probably the biggest fire most of us will ever be on. It's hard to describe. When we drive down Malibu, it's just miles and miles of burned out homes and businesses. And then even up in the hills, I talked to an LA firefighter, and he was there the night that it really went through the neighborhood. And he said the winds were, 75 to 100 miles per hour. So when they tried to put the hose stream on the house, it would just go sideways. So that was their challenge. So the only other thing I'll say about my history is my first wildfire, I'm a little bit older than the rest of these guys, was Yellowstone, when Yellowstone was on fire in 1988. So this will probably be my last wildland. So I started with a big one and ended with a big one. So like I said, it's pretty devastating. I know you've seen pictures, but until you drive through it. And I would say it seemed like there were about 1,000 fire engines there. It was the biggest operation I've ever seen. So.
I'm sure you met people from all over the country and around.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all different types of crews from just about every state in the Southwest, the West Coast and the South. So.
Were there central congregation zones, in between shifts where you guys would go, or?
Well, that was interesting. We were, because there were so many groups of firefighters there, once our day off, they would just try to find, temporary housing for us at hotels or whatever existed, because the camp was so full. So they had temporary housing at the camp, but we never stayed it there. We always went off-site to some other location.
And we heard a lot about a lack of access to water by the firefighters. From your experience, what was that?
So all I can tell you is the hydrants that we opened up had water, okay? And even the LA firefighter said the lack of water wasn't the issue that he saw. So maybe there was some area, clearly it's such a big operation, I can't speak for the whole fire. But wherever we went, we had water. It was still limited because there's only so many hydrants in a neighborhood. So we even were using, garden hoses from the homes. A lot of people left those attached, and one of these smart guys figured out to just put that hose into our hose tank and it slowly fill it up and keep water in our tank. So
Yeah.
it's little things like that you think about.
Before we got started, you said something about a big rock. Did you?
Oh, you had to bring that up.
Yeah, exactly. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so there was one day where we basically just cut the brush from behind these homes that were still vulnerable because the second phase, they gave us a lot of busy work, but the humidity was below 10%, and they were worried about the winds coming back and the fire flaring back up. So we were removing a lot of brush behind the homes, and it was a steep hill. We'd bring down the bushes that people were cutting with chainsaws all day, and I was just dragging down the road and stepped the wrong way and kind of lost my footing a little bit, but just a few bumps and bruises.
Okay.
Nothing big.
Wow.
Can anybody else speak now?
Yeah, exactly. You guys, does anybody
I
else
did
have an
my
interesting story or anything? Well, and how many days were you down?
It was 16, 14?
18
Yeah.
with our travel days.
Right, so 14 there and then 2 travel days back and forth.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow. How many times you have to stop for gas in that big
It
engine?
wasn't really that much, it's two or three times typically. So
Yeah.
there and back. Maybe
Well,
more.
we are in your debt, as are the people of Southern California. Let's give them a big round of applause. Let's do it. It hasn't happened if we don't have a picture. So, council, would you like to go down, or should we have them in front of us? What do you think?
We could just have them.
Okay, gentlemen, come on up. Let's take a picture.
We're
We're just gonna stay up here.
Here, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank your families too for
Yeah, thank you.
letting you go.
Good job, Lieutenant. Thank you.
That was right. That was right too.
Bill Fuller, a former commissioner. All right. Thank you very much. Oh, Carolyn. And I would be remiss if I didn't. I will. I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge our two fire commissioners. We've got Bill Fuller. Thank you, Commissioner, for being here. Let's give him a big round of applause. Thank you. And Carolyn Vedino. Thank you, our Commissioner Vedino. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I guess we'll have to buy a cup of coffee or something to get the more in-depth anecdotes. But thank you so much. It had to be a tremendous. Well, was there ever an instance where you were up with, we saw at least initially some of the huge flames, like with like there was with the Paradise Fire. Was there ever an instance in which you were like astounded with the size of the fire?
That first night and the next day. So when we saw the fire drop into the canyon, it was pretty intense.
Yeah.
So I really give credit to the water drops to keep it from growing up,
Yeah.
where we were.
Yeah.
So I never felt like we were threatened.
Yeah.
And we were actually kind of amazed that it did get into the homes we were protecting.
Yeah. That's good.
But you guys did a great job.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Let's give him another round of applause. Thank you so much. Okay. And now we have got the recognition of the MLK Junior Event Contributors, Diversity Commission Chair Trinice Rogers.
Could you excuse?
Chair Rogers, can I do something real quickly before we get started? Councilmember Hong Tran is unavailable, and his absence is excused this evening. Chair?
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for taking time to recognize the amazing participants at our recent MLK event. This year, we really had an exceptional group of individuals that really stepped up to really celebrate the spirit of MLK and the essence of our theme, which was the next generation of the dream. And so with that, we have some individuals here that have took the time to come and receive their certificate provided by the City of Federal Way. Thank you. And so we'll see who has made their way today. First, I want to just say thank you to our amazing MC, Miss Ayanna Freeman. She really stepped up with the essence of grace and excellence and really allowed us to have a really amazing event. And so with that, I would like to present the first presentation to Miss Ayanna Freeman. Thank you so much. And next, we had an amazing performance, an organization who we partnered with for many years, and we're just so happy that they decided to join us again this year, Happy Dance Studios. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your continued partnership. And with that, we have an amazing brand new partnership, the Northwest Tap Connection. And Mr. MLK, he was a man who really was for all people, and with that, one of his last efforts was the Poor People's Campaign, and this year we had an amazing representation of that. And so with that, will representation for Poor People's Campaign please come forward? And we can't overlook our amazing MC. We had a thought-provoking speech from our very local, our very own Evan Cook. With that, we have his family's here. Please bring your family, Mr. Cook. His beautiful family.
Thanks, Coach.
And I would like also name off the other individuals who may not be here today. We had Pam Ash, amazing educating leader in our community. Takoa Dumpson. Catherine Festa, who was unable to be here this evening, gave an amazing land acknowledgement. Mr. Frank Fields, who I believe serves on the Senior Commission, was one of our recipients of the Candlelight. R.J. Tusili. The Phil M. Dance Troupe, our young, amazing leaders that performed. Thank you for your continued partnership. And who can forget our amazing choir, Integrity Life Choir. They were unable to be here this evening. Thank you. And Sanea Mayo, I believe, is one of our chair for the Youth Commission here. So she was one of the recipients as well. And Ardat Montuyara, which was a representation for our amazing dance troupe from the Indian community. And we have Martin Moore, who gave an amazing introduction for our MC, former council member. Alicia Osio, also a recipient of the Candlelight. Brandon Parker provided an amazing opening of the video of our event this year. And Anissa Rogers and Keith Rogers Jr. were the ones who were available to provide the call of action for MLK Day of Service. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Chair Rogers, I want to let you know, that was probably one of the best we've ever had celebrations, and I just want to say thank you very much to you and the entire Diversity Commission.
I would be remiss not to thank our subcommittee. We had on our subcommittee this year to support this amazing work. We had Commissioner Ron Walker, Commissioner Shantae Lane, and myself. And so I love that that each of us brought to the table, and I really appreciate Ron Walker for reintroducing the candlelight ceremony that I believe we've used in past years. And I appreciate the amazing vision that Commissioner Shantae Lane has provided in ushering the spirit of youth. So with that, I look forward to community members possibly applying in the future. For our commission, we do have openings, and so, and I think I have one more individual. Would you like to come receive your, we have the leader here from our amazing dance troupe. We made eye contact. I want to make sure you're recognized. And this lady here, she somehow managed to facilitate a group of, I believe, 25 to 30 young people. I watched her during the during the rehearsal night, just really managed them very well, and congratulations on a job well done. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you. Job well done. Also, like a big special thanks to Bill Vidino, who put out, how many signs you think you put out, Bill?
Just 40.
No, thank you. All over the community. I think that was well placed. And well, thank you very much, Bill. We appreciate that. And you know, it takes all of us to work together. And it was great. Actually, I thought the turnout was great. The performances were great. It was just really it was just really, like I said, one of the best we've had. Okay, I think now it's time for Mayor's Emerging Issues and Report. Bill also put all the signs out that everybody saw for a State of the City address.
There we go.
Okay, so last Thursday at the Performing Arts and Event Center, we had it was really one of the most enjoyable State of the City addresses I've given. It was an honor to be there with the council, and it was an opportunity to show off some of the great work that the council does, and our city staff, and all the people. So there was a lot. We had the young performing groups, the AFJ ROTC group from Beamer, I believe, and then we had the performing group from Sacagawea Middle School, and it was just actually a phenomenal. We also had Pete von Reichbauer introduced Grimai Zillahy, the chair of the King County Council, and he's the individual who introduced me. So we had a great State of the City address, and once again, really an opportunity to show off the facility and show off the tremendous work that's done by all the folks who work at the city and the people in the community. That's probably what the most fun thing to do is just show all the community events and different things and really brag on the departments that do the important work for each and every one of us. Okay, then we've got... did we go forward? Actually, can you go back one? I think we skipped. Okay, so cold weather shelter update. Keith, would you like to give an update in regard to just the tremendous work that the folks at Fusion have been doing to shelter in this incredibly cold weather for this past 6 weeks?
It's been long 6 weeks.
It has.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Keith Niven, Community Development Director. So I'm here to, at least maybe temporarily, provide a wrap. Since the weather has gotten warmer, the cold weather shelter is now closed. Oh, that is, I'm not in the right place. Shoot.
Wonder if we need Thomas.
Let me, I just opened the wrong PowerPoint. My fault.
Three times.
I'm fine, Thomas.
Oh,
Thank
he's
you.
got it. Okay.
All right. So, too many things with fusion on it. So basically, here's a bunch of numbers for you guys. This is the number of people that were sheltered during the month of February, so from February 1st to the 14th. We also sheltered people in January, starting on the 13th of January. So in total, there were 714 people sheltered over about a month's period, and that is extraordinary, at least as long as I've worked here, for us to have had the shelter open for this long of a period. But the weather has been cold, and as I mentioned, once the temperatures got above 40 degrees, the shelter now, at least for now, is closed. So with that, that is your update for this evening.
So total served during that time?
714, and you can see that the peaks in February were at 38 total. The blue bars are total served. The orange bars are males, gray is females, and then the yellow is children. We hit 40 in January, so that was kind of it was kind of bulging at the seams. But then it kind of dropped a little bit, and then it peaked again this last week when we hit the coldest weather.
Well, I just, I saw David Harrison at a recent event at State of the City address, and I just had to tell him that Fusion saved lives in this community, and we owe them a debt of gratitude. And I'd like to thank Layla and Chris on your staff who did tremendous work coordinating with them, and there was a time actually where we actually needed access to some of our cots to bring them over, and Colonel Pelly, Kevin Pelly, our emergency manager, immediately came over, provided them with that, got those over there, and there was just a great deal of collaboration and coordination that I think the community would be very proud of, and Fusion stood ready to assist, and we were ready in case capacity was hit, that we had some hotel vouchers if we absolutely needed to.
And there were no reported incidents during that month period. Everything went smooth, and so it was really great, a great service.
Yeah. It was hard to articulate just how grateful I was to David to get those people inside. And it clearly, you could see where the numbers started off, and the word got out that this is a place that you could get life-saving shelter. And so, thanks again. I got to make a point of calling David and his team again, and maybe we should have them come and get them recognized in front of the community for their work.
Sounds great.
Great, thank you.
I have a question.
Oh, yes, Councilmember Honda.
Yes, I'd like to thank Fusion and David and all the people who helped house the homeless who needed a place to stay and to save their lives. The 700 or so folks that stayed there, were those the same folks over and over, or were they 700 different people?
I'm going to answer it. That's probably not exactly the question you asked. It's 714 individuals. Some of them were definitely return, but as you can see, so it ebbed and flowed anywhere between 14 and 40. So, if those 14 were there every night for a week, they would obviously be repeats, but you still had other people kind of filtering in and maybe bleeding off as they maybe found other options along the way with family or friends.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question to break those numbers down, and I guess it represents stays as opposed to individuals. These were these were the total number of stays.
Heads and cots.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, good. Councilmember Walsh?
Just along with that, it would be interesting to get the number of unique individuals with that.
We can ask Fusion if they keep that level of detail. If so, we will bring that report to the council.
All right, thank you.
All right.
But great job, great job.
Yeah. Councilmember McDaniel.
I got a follow-up question. Do you know if any wraparound services were offered when we got them in-house?
Background services, do you have an example?
Wraparound services, the term they're using nowadays, I guess, of like additional long-term housing, drug, intervention, or any
I
of
don't,
the other, connecting with the day center, or anything like that.
Great question. That's an absolute great question. Sorry, I'm tracking now. So
Yeah.
I don't know if part of Fusion services for the emergency shelter includes any kind of case management or follow-up. I will check on that as well.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know if any of these actually became, or capable of being Fusion's future clientele, too. Thank you.
You know, I think actually I think that warrants an after-action report, with Chris and Layla. Layla appeared to be the person on point, that was working more closely, but I know Chris was as well. Maybe we get an after-action report that addresses some of the questions of, while we had a certain number, 714 stays, how many individuals, were there services that were offered? I know that I saw anecdotally, like there was the young juvenile that was kind of brought in, and I know another family, but I don't think we've got our arm around, how that looked it'd be good to sort of have a final report, maybe even lessons learned and, what we can do moving forward. Not a novel, maybe just a page or two, but just an after-action report. All right, then we've got Councilmember Walsh, Councilmember Dovey, and then Councilmember Honda.
Just a follow-up kind of on what the mayor said. From the reports, there was one unaccompanied minor young lady. And do you know if she has been able to receive long-term service because of everyone there? I mean, that's the one that I'm the most concerned about, is making sure that she is getting something worked out, not just for those nights that she stayed there, but for long-term service.
I don't know, and I wrote that down, so that'll be part of our follow-up report. Yes, sir.
Okay, Councilmember Dovey?
Yeah, the only thing that I noticed from this graph is, we're thankful that Fusion stepped up and helped these people, but we got a real problem in Federal Way. And if we're just happy we have this graph that, 15 women were there one night and 40 men, we're getting a great report, but we're not doing enough. And so I would hope we have those discussions, because this is a problem that's going to be with us for a long time. And everybody did a great job during this cold time, but, if that's what we're proud of, I don't think we're doing our job. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Honda.
I was going to bring that up too. If we could get a report on the Red Lion and what's happening over there and when that shelter may be available, it would be really awesome if, excuse me, if work could start now and we could be open by next fall.
I believe Kelly Ryder with King County is coming March 4th.
Okay.
Do you know that to be true, Brian, or am I making that up?
But does that mean that they're actually moving ahead and doing something with the building?
What I can tell you is that we got a call from an architect that has been hired by King County, asking questions about parking and change of use from the hotel to the emergency shelter. So someone is at least under contract with King County and working on progress. How fast that's going to move, that's probably a conversation when King County comes to give an update on both health through housing, the extended stay, and the emergency shelter.
Okay.
Could you make that call tomorrow to Kelly Ryder? Find that out, let council know. Let's find out what's going on.
I will find out, yes.
I think we were told that they weren't going to choose to open the Red Lion until Link Light Rail, the
The routing decision.
route was going to be chosen, and that's with the EIS. It should be done shortly.
Right. Did you have?
I had one more question. In the report that we get, the updated report about Fusion, I would be interested in knowing if there were any people turned away because of animals. I know that they will take animals if they have a crate to put them in there, which is truly amazing because not all shelters do that, but I'd like that information.
Yeah, I was going to put a fourth column for animals because there was, but it wasn't
Okay.
frequent enough for me to have done that. But I
are-
don't know the answer to that, and I will include that in the
There are
report.
people that refuse shelter because their animal can't be with them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that makes total sense. Councilmember Walsh?
Yeah, I was just going to say, one thing that you mentioned is that you understand they're going to be asking for a change of use. And I'm totally shocked and amazed that, it's been 3 years that since the county purchased it? It's taken 3 years to do something as simple as getting to a change of use for it. I'm dumbfounded. So, anyway.
I'm going to have you work with Brian tomorrow to make sure we reach out. If you don't get an answer from Kelly Ryder, let's reach out to the executive's chief of staff. But we just need to get some clarity on what's going on. Obviously, part of the routing, for everybody that maybe what's referenced up here is that when light rail comes down, is planned to come down south from the downtown, its alignment has not been determined, and there's some obstacles, legal obstacles and other practical obstacles that may prevent it from going true south along the I-5. And therefore, but that final decision has not been made yet, and about where exactly light rail would move to the west and whether that will actually happen. So it's a matter of, let's figure out if that is, I know that's been represented, let's nail that down and about, when they can actually get starting to move on this. Okay? All right, anything else, council, on this? Okay, good discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And please pass along our thanks again to Layla and Chris. Great. Okay, now, go back to my, please, let's go back to the Mayor's emerging report. Okay. I think we're on just the slide 2, okay, next. Okay. Can you move that bar, or can you, let's see.
Yeah, we're trying to find some.
There it is. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Recent community events. We had the, on the picture, on the two pictures on the left is where Pete Von Reichbauer and I, our King County Council member, and the CEO of Sound Transit and key staff members, EJ and City Administrator Brian Davis. Can you go back?
Sorry.
Boy, it's temperamental. There we go. That picture there to the far left is myself and an individual who's one of the project leads, standing on where the station will be about 20 feet up from the ground. We're actually looking over where the pads are, essentially where that whole area where the station's going to be, and we had come across the span, and then the whole group there. They actually have a car that you see in the middle picture that has been brought to that location, pulled to that location. They don't have the lines electrified yet, but they're getting ready to. And so this system is going to be up and running by the time World Cup gets here, by spring of next year. It looks like they're going to be ready to go. But I got to tell you, just a massive investment in infrastructure. What was interesting when we went up, the tower we went up over there in the Target parking lot, when you go up and then you cross over 320th, they've got railings or dividers. You don't even realize you're crossing over the street unless you really focus looking down and through a crack. So I didn't even realize we had crossed over 320th completely by the time we got there. So it is really that portion of it where we're standing right there is completely done. The escalators are done. The flooring is done. It is really pretty much near completion. And now what they're working on is the cars and the electrification. Really appreciate the senior staff of Sound Transit and the interim CEO, Jordan Spearman, who really has been a great partner in this process. Next is I testified before the House Community Safety Committee on House Bill 1276. I did so at the request of the Washington State Retail Association that was addressing increasing sentencing guidelines for individuals who engage in organized retail theft. That occurred on February 10th. Without getting too far into it, there are roving bands of bandits who hit retail establishments and sometimes do tens of thousands of dollars worth of thefts in an instant, and then, in a very organized, collaborated way, and then flee. And then they were able to resell those goods. That happened at Ulta several times, and it's happened at multiple different retailers from around the region. So the Retail Industry Association, of which, really the backbone of the business community in the city of Federal Way is retail. And so it was my honor to testify in support. I was astonished that people would be. This is about adding a 12-month enhancement if the goods got to a certain level. But you can guarantee that people on the other side were trying to argue against it, and that the losses that they suffered are not don't rise to the level of doing this. It was just. It's the democratic process, but nevertheless, it really is. Sometimes the amount of loss that some of these retailers suffer is breathtaking. And the laws that are in place have not kept up with the facts on the ground. And so this would add a 12-month enhancement for crimes like that. We'll see what happens. A representative from the 28th District, which is in the Lakewood area, proposed this bill. And I was in communication with her today. All right, next. Okay, we've got the annual City Council retreat on Saturday, February 22nd. That's this Saturday. Dumas Bay Center, doors open at 7:30, free breakfast. Lots of bacon and eggs, and come on down, watch the council. We'll let our hair down a bit and talk about the future and talk about our plans, the council's plans, and it's important to hear from the public, and so we'd love to have you there. Next. Upcoming community events, we've got the Association of Washington Cities Action Days. That's tomorrow and Thursday. That's February 19th to 20th. I'll be down there with some of the council members. This Saturday, at the same time that the event is going on with the council retreat, we've got the styrofoam, plastic, and document shredding at Poverty Bay Coffee. That'll go from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The Multi-Service Center Redondo Heights opening is Tuesday, February 25th, a week from today. That's at 10 a.m. And let's see, next. Also, we've got the Japanese high school visit. We've got some folks, some students from Japan coming on Wednesday, February 26th at 2 p.m. Coffee and conversation with the Federal Way City Council and Federal Way School Board on Saturday, March 22nd, 10 a.m. to noon. And then that's at Ebony and Ivory Coffee over there at Weyerhaeuser Way South. And then we've got the March of Diapers Drive, Saturday, March 22nd, same day at 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Fred Meyer. Next. Okay. Okay, that concludes my report.
Mayor?
Yes.
I have a question on Sound Transit.
Yeah.
So you said that the one section is done. What about the public art in that section? Or do you
Still
know?
working on it.
Still working on it.
I was actually thinking about that when I was out there. I was trying to figure out where exactly. Yeah. We should probably figure out, Brian, you should probably ask Joran, the CEO, or EJ, do you know?
On the public art?
Yeah.
So the mural on the side of the parking garage is done. That's installed. The sculpture in the drop-off area, which is the I-5 at High-5 former sculpture, is in the process of being refurbished. The station itself, they are in the middle of working through the permitting right now. It's supposed to be installed in the next couple of months. And then the big sculpture that the council's had interest in previously, that they have not submitted an updated permit for to date, that they're still in the process of working through. They did install the foundation based on the assumptions that they've made, but we're still waiting to see that advance.
All right, great, thank you very much. Okay, on out, public comment, most important thing we do at our meetings. I have one pink sheet, if anybody else would like to testify. But Ken Blevins, come on down.
Are you going to Olympia? Okay, so we'll see you there.
Mayor, council, thank you for listening to my comment. What's up? Why just me? Jeez. Even Bob didn't come tonight. so thank God. Hard to follow that guy. Anyways, I wanted to, I'm going to talk about the homeless drug addiction problem in Federal Way, and I'm glad that we talked. It's something that's on our mind with cold weather and people out there, but if most of these people aren't from here, so this day center really is still just drawing people. There's no room for shelter space in like Seattle or wherever they're coming from. And you can see them coming in on a daily basis, same place, the bus center, off the bus, out of vans. I saw a couple drop-offs, and I just don't know why it's our problem. And they end up in front of businesses and causing problems and so on. So I think there should be again, we need to focus on the drug problem of it, the addiction problem, why they're homeless and why they're down here. We can't take this from our state legislatures that are just trying to house them. We have an extended stay over here, totally livable. It's actually really nice for some people, especially if you're cold. I don't think they housed anybody there. I don't know what's up with if King County really cared about people that are freezing on the street. We got to say something about that. We should stand up to this and be as vocal as possible. The state now is making it a lot harder on us again. They want to be able to allow people to tent wherever they want and then leave cities liable for that. I don't know why we're liable for this. This sound transit coming into our city, it's ugly. Honestly, it's kind of cool, this big, huge thing coming through here, but we used to drive into Federal Way, and right at the peak, you could see this beautiful American flag just overlooking the 320th going down, and it's always upkept and looks really good. And now, nothing. We don't see anything. And I don't see that as a positive thing. We're losing local control. Our schools are not getting any better. They're continuing to raise taxes on us, and we're not getting anything for it. And we really need leadership here on our council just to really keep standing up and pushing forward, and don't just take the way it is. Again, this is a drug addiction issue, and we need to work on that. The Red Lion really should just be an intake for people to be able to get ready to go into to treatment center. That would be a great place for them to be, not just take for what it is, and people that are being dropped off here and then now we got to take care of them. So it's really not helping them. There's one more step away from dying from overdose. And so let's really focus on the addiction thing and come up with real solutions, not just what they give us. And thanks a lot for listening to me.
All right, thanks, Ken. Okay, any other public comment? I think this has got to be a record. It is. All right. Well, thank you, Ken. Okay, so we are on to Council Committee and Regional Committee reports. Parks, Recreation, Human Services, and Public Safety Committee, Councilmember Walsh.
Yes, we met last week, a week ago this evening, and on the consent agenda tonight, items E through G came out of that Parks Committee meeting, as well as on the business agenda, item B. We will not be meeting in March. Most of the council will be in Washington, D.C. For the National League of Cities Congressional Congress. And so our next meeting will be in April, the second Tuesday in April. So, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Land Use Transportation Committee, LUTC, Councilmember Dovey.
Next meeting is March 3rd in this chambers at 5 p.m. on Monday.
All right, thank you. For Finance, Economic Development, and Regional Affairs Committee, any?
We were meeting next Tuesday, February 25th at 5 p.m. here.
Okay, great, thank you. Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, Councilmember Assefa Dawson.
Yeah, we interviewed, and we are going to have a complete committee. We have appointment tonight to fill all the positions. And so with Tanya's departure, I don't know when our next meeting is going to be.
All right, okay, thank you. Okay, Regional Committees report, Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. I will be attending the AWC City Action Days along with council members Kochmar and Walsh and the mayor also. My first meeting will be the Education and Training Advisory Committee that I'm on for AWC. And after that, we'll be doing whatever they have us doing. But I know that on Thursday, we are visiting Senator Wilson in her office. You're welcome to attend with us.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah.
I am a member of the Transportation Policy Board for PSRC, and we had a meeting last week, and we talked about the road usage charge bill, which is House Bill 1921. And I believe they had a hearing either last week or they're having one this week, but it's an interesting bill, and it would replace the gas tax potentially. So if you're interested, follow along with that one. For council, AWC has a lot of information on this. They sent an email out yesterday with a bunch of bills that AWC is following, and they have a lot of information about this on that. I was one of 5 council members to judge the National League of Cities Diversity Awards this year, and I had 7 cities to read about what they've done for diversity issues in their city. One of the cities I got to judge was the city of Burien, which was really interesting. They've done some amazing stuff in Burien that I would like us to copy. I think it would work really well here. And one of the criteria, one of the questions that we had to answer and assign points to was, could this work in your city? And anyway, it was hard to judge. They were all really good, but at the conference in Washington, D.C., there will be a breakfast where the winners are announced. And the Senior Commission is working really hard on the Senior Health and Resource Fair. It is going to be Thursday, May 15th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Performing Arts Center. It's free, and we already have over 40 vendors who have already signed up to be there, which is amazing. The Senior Commission also has their reading program, which has started. So if you're interested in reading to elementary school children and you want to, go into the schools 1 day a week, 2 days a week, every other week, call Amy Glandon in the council office, and she can help you sign up for that. And we're looking for as many people as possible because it's a way to get into, to volunteer, and it's only 15, 20 minutes when you read. You don't get a whole lot of time to read to the kids, but it's something special. So if you're interested, please let us know. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Council President report.
Thank you, Mayor. You may have heard already, but just for the community to know that the King County Public Health Department, which is right next to the day center, is being sold to Health Point. So I'm not sure how that's going to change that whole dynamic, but now Health Point will be running that entire large building. Also, I did read, and maybe Manager Davis could tell us about it, but that the extended stay is going to open with 16 beds in another month or so. I read that in one of our memos. So when Councilmember Honda, Mayor Farrell, and Councilmember Walsh and I go to Olympia tomorrow and the next day, we'll be arguing on your behalf some of the things that we're going to, it's a conference, so some of the things we're going to be talking about will be the housing supply. As you know, the legislature has mandated that we change our ability to have more houses on a smaller lot. So up to 6 on a regular lot is what I understand. And then we're going to be talking about transportation funding, and we'll be talking about public safety. So those are some of the things we'll be talking about prior to when we go to the only legislator that was able to meet with us is Senator Wilson. So we'll be seeing her at 3:15 on Thursday. Okay. And with the road usage charge, this might be kind of interesting to you. Councilmember Honda was talking about this. Instead of a gas tax, well, personally, I think they're going to keep the gas tax and the road usage charge, but at any rate, the road usage charge would be something where there was a big discussion on how this would work. And for example, if you put a tracker in your vehicle, it could track how many miles you drove for the year. However, some people really vehemently did not like that because they didn't want people to know where they were driving. So that was kind of interesting. So this road usage charge now will be based on you voluntarily stating how many miles you're going to drive for the year. So I don't know how that's going to work out voluntarily speaking. So keep an eye on that because that's going to be quite a change for all of you. And then also that's all through the legislature. We have nothing to do with that other than we'll say what we think about it. And then one other thing we are working on, and we'll talk about this at the retreat on Saturday, we'll be talking about the future of Fedway, but one of the things we're talking about, Bill Vadino is working on is the farmer's market. You know, the farmer's market is going to change. It's going to be under the auspices of the city of Fedway, but at the same time, El Centro de la Raza is talking about having a farmer's market down off of 16th, right across from, basically on the way to Costco. On a small piece of property, I don't know how that's going to work, so we need to talk about how these two farmers markets are going to work for you. But those are some of the things in your future. And then when we get to next month, we'll be going for a week to Washington, D.C. There's been a whole change in the administration, as you all know, in Washington, D.C. Not sure how that all is going to affect us, but the way your money comes for transportation funds, for example, part of it comes from your city budget, part of it comes from the federal government, and part of it comes from the state. And so it's going to be very interesting to see what happens when we go to the federal, what kind of money we might be able to get from them on your behalf, because this is a whole new change in how things are operating. So all we can do is work on your behalf as much as possible and then bring that information back to you. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, now, let's see here. Well, we've got the consent agenda next. So now we are on the consent agenda. These items have gone through committee and can be passed all at once, but I'll go ahead and read them and ask whether a council member wants them pulled for separate consideration. Item A, minutes for the February 4th, 2025 regular and special meeting minutes. B, cooperative purchasing interlocal agreement with the city of Everett. C, resolution accepting transportation grants and the authorizing the execution of the associated local agency agreements. D, concrete sidewalk beveling, trip hazard removal, authorization to bid. E, fiscal year 2024 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Grant, JAG program, grant award acceptance, MOU contract. F, lease agreement between Valley Road LLC and the City of Federal Way for the downtown police substation. G, Washington State Department of Corrections Master Agreement Amendment, Class 5, Community Restitution Programs. Council, are any of these items you'd want pulled for separate consideration? All right, Council President Kochmar.
Thank you. I move approval of the consent agenda, items A through G.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Matters passed unanimously. Item 8, council business. Item A, the 2025 federal legislative priorities. Standing in for Tanya Carter, our Economic Development Director, is Brian Davis, City Administrator. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. As he mentioned, I'm filling in for Tanya tonight, who wasn't able to be here. This is a presentation of the federal delegation legislative priorities.
Oh, sorry, Brian, can I interrupt you for a moment?
Yeah.
I'd like to acknowledge a very special guest. We've got Rick Agnew, our federal lobbyist, in the back of the room. Thank you, Rick, for being here this evening. Thank you.
Yes. That was after my second slide was to say, we'll turn it over to Rick now.
Oh, okay.
If needed. This has gone through, we've had conversations with the council. It has gone through committee and was forwarded to you for your consideration under the business agenda. For the congressionally directed spending funding recommendations, we have two for you. One is a mobile incident command vehicle for $2.25 million, and the day center relocation potential at $2.5 million. Now, these are projects, as we've talked about before, these are projects that have been identified that most closely match what you, the council, wants, that aligns with the parameters and funding priorities of the congressional delegation. And so that's how these projects were identified, and Rick can get into that in more detail if you desire. But that's how these were selected, with conversations with yourself and reconciling that with priorities of the delegation. Other ones that we want to keep on the radar, but don't necessarily have an identified amount or refined project definition to them yet, would be healthcare continuum hub, additional funding for childcare, international business soft landing, transportation projects, and then help with rehabilitation of the community center. Again, these are earmark priorities to basically keep on our representatives' radar for things that are important to us, that hopefully maybe sometime, either immediately or in the future, would receive their blessing for additional funding. So with that, the recommendation on your memo is option 1, and that is to approve the proposed priorities as forwarded by the federal. And as the mayor mentioned, Rick Agnew is here. He's our federal lobbyist, and so if you have any questions for him or myself, happy to do that at this time.
Rick, you want to come on up just to maybe say a few words about, when we turn our TVs on every night, we're seeing a lot of news come out of Washington, and maybe you can give us a sort of a flavor of how it is back there, and yeah, exactly. Maybe a crystal ball in regard to what you see going on.
It'd be quite a crystal ball if we could see what will happen. It is thank you, Mayor and council members. It's an incredible time in D.C., a convulsive time in lots of respects, because the new administration is desiring to and motivated to reduce the size of the federal government and to focus the mission of the federal government in different ways than the prior administrations, plural. And so they're doing that very aggressively. And where this is going to go, I do think they will succeed, because there's a certain amount of authority the president has under the Constitution to carry out federal programs. And that'll go through the court system. It's already challenged in 5 different areas and probably 12 different cases. Supreme Court will end up deciding some of this, on layoffs and scope of projects and ending commissions and ending federal agencies even, transferring most of that money to the state. For example, the Department of Education is an area that this Trump administration wants to shift over to the states and either reduce or eliminate entirely. As it relates to your trip is very timely. Mid-March will be a time in which they're starting to make the funding decisions very early on. So they won't be done by then. They will be carried on into next summer and fall. But it is the right time to speak up as a city. And as was mentioned, what we try to do on the lobbying side is match up the city's identified priorities. We've spent several months with city staff to identify the city's priorities, match them up with the delegation's priorities, and with what can get funded from the federal administration. Our delegation hasn't changed for our city, and their priorities haven't really changed. Public safety, homeless, childcare, some of the things that you see here. I did want to make one comment about when we identify a congressionally directed spending, that's called an earmark. That's not in lieu of other funding. Like, we still seek grant opportunities. The city has a really good grant specialist that helps. So just because it's not identified as an earmark doesn't mean that we don't pursue the funding for the city in those priority areas such as childcare. Part of what we do is work with the delegation staff month in, month out to advance the city's priorities and to try to sync it up with the federal appropriations and that kind of thing. So this is all headline stuff as far as what the administration is doing. They will succeed on a fair amount of it. But there will be a time that's coming up in March and April, May, where the Congress is going to weigh in. And, you know, council member, as far as the crystal ball goes, I do think you'll see a reduction in a fair amount of federal spending in different areas. And some of those areas will be sort of more like transportation, where a lot of the money goes to the state, goes through the state to the cities and school districts and that kind of thing. I'm not sure that the education initiatives will end up being enacted. There'll be a fair amount of opposition in the Congress. So all of that is being played out now. We're coming up on a time where they're going to do what's called budget reconciliation, in which they'll take the first steps in the Senate this week, and then the House will take them next week. And then from there, the committees have to report the actual changes in law. And that's where you see the tax provisions and all the stuff that, with respect to federal income tax. So we're early on in trying to identify that, but with respect to your federal agenda, we started to develop this before the election, and obviously with city staff. The election was a major change in direction from the prior administration. We're adjusting to that and making sure that the city's priorities as far as ongoing city operations and the transformative nature of where we are right now as a city is heard by our delegation, and they'll advance it. They've been good on a couple of major issues. We've secured a prior earmark for the TC3 space, and in the works, a still an earmark for repair of the community center. So both of those were funded by the delegation. That they're still in the works, they haven't been completed yet. You haven't received the money, but it's something that the delegation has been supportive of the city's efforts. I'm happy to answer any question, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you very much. First, Councilmember McDaniel, and then Councilmember Honda.
Yeah, my question is actually going to be for Brian, so it's going to be about some of the choices we had. So right now, we have two options, like you said, the mobile incident command vehicle and then also the day center relocation. I'm going to start with the mobile incident vehicle. My first question is, I did see this as an item in the wish list, but the price tag was different than what we're seeing right now. Could you explain to me the difference in the price tag? And then my other question is going to be like maintenance, storage, and questions like that related to if this actually does go through.
On the price tag, I think that's just a work in progress. We don't exactly know, as we talked about at FedRAC, the accounts aren't open yet, so we don't even know if, what the limitations on funding would be. So the amounts identified in the slide were probably the maximum we could get, but we're just not sure.
Gotcha.
And if I may, we're not sure because Congressman Smith, for example, is quite good at saying, these are the eligible amounts, these are the eligible uses, but he hasn't published that yet. So it's still a work in progress.
Okay.
And as far as operations, I think the idea here is this is capital acquisition, not ongoing operations.
Got it. But it's going to have an ongoing cost. So that's one of my questions is what is the city's plan for the maintenance and storage of this particular vehicle?
I'd have to yield to the city staff on that one.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Chief, you have information on that?
Sure. The vehicle could easily be stored here at City Hall in the back facility of the secured area. It would be used for police operations, but also for emergency events that we might have. One of the things that we do as a city, because we don't have a command mobile vehicle, we borrow the Homeland Security vehicle for 4th of July event, for example. So if we had a natural disaster, whether it's an earthquake or man-made created incident, the city would have some sort of a command vehicle that even the policy group could use, or the policy group, or even, a staff. So it's a wish list. It's not because of the cost, and there's other options available to us. It certainly would be a luxury. It's a city of this size, we could certainly use a command vehicle, and other cities of this size, have command vehicles. So long-term, it would be great to have, but it wouldn't be just solely for police use. It would be for emergency management as well.
Okay. Kind of brings me to the second one. I thought we had purchased a used vehicle for command, but that's going to a different area. How would this vehicle differ from that particular vehicle that we already have?
I can take that answer. The vehicle we got was the $2,500 used motorhome that we got. Now, that is a test vehicle, as I mentioned. This is kind of to flesh out what we need in an actual enduring vehicle. That also the grant money that we got, that we currently have programmed the grant money in order to fill that vehicle out. And a lot of that equipment could be transferred over. So call it beta testing, but the current motorhome we have is parked over at the South King Fire logistics facility between off Pacific Highway down south of here. And that is a combined Greater Federal Way Community Emergency Response Vehicle in partnership with South King Fire and our other partners.
Would this one be replacing that, or would we have two vehicles of that?
Absolutely. No, the current vehicle we have is not meant to be enduring. It is a test bed for a future command vehicle.
Gotcha. And then do we have, has the city put an estimated maintenance cost for this particular vehicle together?
I don't have that.
Okay. I'm going to move on to the next one then. The next question I have is on the day center relocation. I think the price point was explained to me is pretty much we're asking what the max would be, and then we can figure it out from there, which makes complete sense to me. My question on this one is legality. Since we do not own the building, nor do we own the services that are being provided to that service, how does the city have the capability of using money to help relocate a business? If it's, is that not like a gift of funds or anything like that? Where's the line on that particular item?
I guess I'll take it. One of the major caveats to the gift of public funds rule is when it's in service of the poor and the disadvantaged. So in addition to that, the city council has quite a bit of latitude to decide what's in the best interest of the city. So as long as there's a finding by the council that it is in the best interest of the city to use this money for this purpose, and in addition, it's being used to facilitate services for the homeless, it's not a legal issue.
Okay, so for future, just for my own future knowledge, the loophole for that particular reasoning is if it is a greater good to the society, especially targeting a certain individual group?
The Washington State Constitution actually says the poor and disadvantaged, I believe.
Okay.
So that's a huge breakout. Then there's another one where if council, in its collective judgment, decides that it's in the city's best interest to use the money for that purpose, then often it can be used, even though it might, or, if we did not have that judgment, it might be deemed a gift of public funds.
Gotcha. My second question on that one is, since the location we're looking at moving to is the red line, which is still up in the air, if we were to go forward and to collect win this particular item, are we able to transfer location, anything like that, or is it embed? Is it has to be this location, or is it just the ability to move that facility to a different location?
Right.
Looking
Yeah,
for
great question. So this is the site that's currently identified, and if there were to be some, if either it didn't work out because of the alignment, or because it just didn't work out because the site doesn't have the capacity for it. This is something that's been brought up on more than one occasion by the day center, is for the city to help with relocation efforts. So this is, whether it's at the Red Line or some other site, they have asked us to help them with that effort.
I'm totally for moving and helping with that. My question would be then is, do we get the building they're currently in since they own that and we're paying for the move? I mean, it's a little facetious, but if we're going to pay to have them moved and they still own that building, that means they still have that asset. Longer conversation.
The intent here is to be a partnership for a need that we all identify as something that is, to Ryan's point, to help the poor and disadvantaged.
Got you. Appreciate the answers. Thank you.
Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Mr. Agnew. So you mentioned transportation, and Sound Transit does get some federal money for what they're doing, and since they have 3 projects, large projects here in Federal Way, do you think that might be impacted?
Impacted by the changes in
By
federal,
by
funding for projects overall, probably impacted, maybe reduced some. I can't imagine it would be eliminated. there's no announcement from the incoming administration to eliminate transit funding and things like that, which is the things that are mostly in the headlines today. It probably will, overall transit funding nationwide will probably receive reductions. This is where our delegation comes into play. Senator Murray is still a huge force on the Senate Appropriations Committee, and I would resist funding cuts that are too great. So I wouldn't see like a huge change, a huge reduction for Sound Transit, but it probably will experience some reduction.
Okay, thank you.
And if I may, could I go back to Councilmember McDaniel's question? One other thing to keep in mind is the timing. As I said, these priorities for the city are works in progress. We're still working on them. The earliest anything could get funded for, like the day center relocation, would be this fall for use in 2026. So that's one of the other things that we're trying to sequence is actual project where the dollars actually go on the ground with when the federal money's available. And that's a bit of a challenge, but it's a little bit further in time, so there's time to actually weigh in more on these kinds of questions.
Gotcha. I'm going to follow up on that one. When did we get approved for the last round of funding that has not come through yet? How many years has it been on that one? Is it usually a 2 to 3 year difference between approval and then funding?
This is a subject of enormous frustration. Yes, it's
great for budgeting, right?
It takes about 2 years. So in 23, I think it was, we received, Congressman Smith and Senator Cantwell advanced the TC3, $850,000 for the space there. HUD has taken quite a long time to develop the actual program to release the funds. They still haven't done that. That's no fault of the city. And then in 24, Senator Murray led the effort to get $1.2 million for the community center repair. That actual legislation is still hung up, and what we're being told is, so it hasn't been enacted into law. The prior one was enacted into law, the TC3 amount. So what we're being told is, hey, go ahead and apply for the same thing again in case we can't get the final appropriations bill done in a way that takes care of these earmarks. So it's not something that's specific to federal way, it applies to all the earmarks. So my sense is if we do get an agreement on those in late March, early May, it's all depending on all agreement on all this funding. Even that money wouldn't be available for another probably 2 years, year and a half to 2 years.
Okay, appreciate the education.
Really frustrating.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Brian. All right. Oh, sorry. Council President?
Thank you. Councilmember McDaniel, that's exactly why we have somebody like Rick tracking this, because it takes so long for these things to go through committee and so it doesn't get dropped. And so when you're talking about millions of dollars, it's an important thing. And thank you, Rick, for all of your years of service on our Human Services Commission. So thank you for being part of our community.
Thank you.
Don't feel free not to answer this if you can't, because there has been discussion about this. I'm just wondering, because Seattle declared itself a sanctuary city, does that affect the funding that's going to come to our state?
Probably. The answer is if the Trump administration has its way, the answer would be yes, for sure. They are seeking to reduce the funding to sanctuary cities. Whether they will succeed or not is probably the biggest constitutional battle of our time, in which, in the end, the Supreme Court will decide this question: is the administration free to eliminate funding that was appropriated by Congress, by an act of Congress? Can the administration just end that funding or significantly reduce it Congress in 1974 enacted the Budget Control and Impoundment Act during the Reagan administration to limit the ability of the president and the executive agencies to eliminate funding that has been appropriated. But there's going to be a question about the constitutionality of that statute. I think in the end, Congress will resist in future appropriations bills the idea that because the city designated itself as a sanctuary city, that it can't get federal funding for those programs. But there'll be a big tug of war over that. Is there a way to limit funding? In those instances, the answer is yes, if Congress goes along, certainly. If Congress doesn't go along, then it ends up in the Supreme Court.
Thank you.
Okay, do you have a motion?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I move approval of the proposed 2025 federal delegation legislative priorities.
Second.
It's been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Matter passes unanimously. Item B, the 2025-2026 Human Services Commission Senior Center funding. Keith Devon, Community Development Director.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council President Kochmar, council members, Keith Niven, Community Development Director back. This evening we have 2025-2026 Human Services General Fund grants, the Senior Center. So the policy question in front of the City Council this evening is, should the City Council approve the Senior Center's request for $30,000? So the process that we've been through so far, back in September 30th, 2024, the Human Services Commission put together their recommendation. That recommendation consisted of 34 agencies being funded and a recommendation to retain $34,000 of contingency money. On October 15th, 2024, the City Council went ahead with their decision, and part of that decision was, one, to withhold funding for the day center. That was part of a conversation about trying to encourage Catholic Community Services to provide better management of that facility. And then the second item was to fund St. Vincent de Paul at $3,096 from the contingency, okay? So flash forward to this year, February 11th, 2015. Whew, I lost a decade. 2025, Parks Rec Human Services Public Safety Committee recommended to the council to fund the senior center at $30,000 from the Human Services grant contingency. So out of that original $34,000, which after St. Vincent de Paul is down at around $30,000 and 900, I think, 30,900. So this could come out of that without having to start a conversation about the day center, which might be on our horizon. So this evening, we're going to make a decision on the senior center. Options considered, one, approve $30,000 funding for the senior center. Two, request the Human Services Commission revisit the 2025-2026 unfunded applications and provide the City Council with a recommendation for allocating the remaining contingency funds. Three, do not fund the senior center and reserve the contingency funds as is. The mayor's recommendation is option one, to approve $30,000 funding for the senior center.
Okay, Councilmember McDaniel.
I have no problem with this idea going forward. How much is left in the contingency fund if we approve this tonight?
$900.
900?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to ask anyways. What is required for someone to then access that $900 for services?
So that could happen one of two ways. There's probably more than two, but I'm going to go with two because that's a good number. Either one, the city council could strike up another conversation at Parks, Rec, Human Services Committee about that $900. The second would be for us to go ahead and advertise the availability of that $900 and let people, different agencies kind of compete for it, like they did originally.
Got it. And if we don't do either one, does this then stay in the fund for the next cycle?
It would stay in this fund and then get, my understanding, and maybe Mr. Groom wants to weigh in, my understanding is it gets swept into the basket and disappears. That's the technical version.
Steve?
Sorry.
Could you say that again? It gets swept in the basket, it doesn't disappear.
Yes. So the amount available for 2026, right now, unless the council wanted to move that $900 into that amount, is already part of the recommendation that's in front of you guys. So that balance of $900 is actually for the biennium.
Okay, just want to check on that. Thank you.
Councilmember Honda?
Thank you. I know at the committee meeting, we had a very brief discussion about adding the $900 to this motion. And we were told that they had only asked for $30,000.
That was their application, yes.
So would we be terribly horrible if we added the 900? I mean, it's a lot of, I thought at one point we were encouraging any grants that we gave out to be at least $5,000 for the work that's involved in getting a grant out to an organization.
So of the 34 that you guys funded, 35 if you include St. Vincent de Paul, none of them were funded over their ask.
Correct.
Many of them were funded under their ask because there was not enough money to go around. So to give the senior center the extra $900 seems complicated to me.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Council President?
I'm not, am I the one moving this?
No, you've got your light on, so. All right.
Sorry.
Councilmember Dovey?
I have a question. I'm not opposed to moving this money to the senior center, but one thing I think that should be on our radar is the Federal Way Community Caregivers Network has cut back on their gardening. They gave the senior Truman one to the school to manage, and they're managing this one here that gives the food this year to the senior center for the food bank and gives the food for the kitchen to serve the seniors. And I just see on the horizon there's going to be a crisis of who's going to manage those gardens or how they're going to buy their seeds and things like that. So Councilmember Honda's idea of maybe adding $900 to this and earmarking it for the gardens, for the seeds for next year or something like that might make some sense. Or it should be on our radar to be looking at that because we've got a lot of hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in those gardens over the years. And it may be something we have to just be thinking about.
Councilmember McDaniel?
Going with that one, I would not want to add it to the current one just to stay precedence, but bring it to the parks next time and throwing the 900 that way, I think would be the cleaner process to go forward, but I'm okay with that.
I wasn't at Parks, so I wasn't part of this discussion, but I see a ticking time bomb out at that garden.
Yeah.
All right.
Now I have a question.
Yes, Council President.
So to keep it clean, why don't we just go ahead and vote on what's before us and then ask the mayor to find $5,000 in his account so that we can get those gardens moving.
4,100.
Well, can we do that? 4,100 plus the 900? I don't know. Can you do that?
We can ask the mayor to do anything.
Well, I mean, to keep it clean.
Yeah.
Steve?
You're looking at me, aren't you?
So just, I'd prefer if we could stick to the agenda tonight. This is what's on the agenda. If we want to talk about appropriating money for another use, we could put that on the agenda at a future meeting.
Okay. All right. Councilmember Walsh has recused himself, or would you like to say so?
I'm recusing myself from this vote. So.
All right. Okay. All All right, with that, Council President Kuchma.
Oh, I was going to read it.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, sorry. Councilmember Honda.
I move approval of utilizing $30,000 of the Human Service Grant contingency to fund the senior center.
Second.
It's been a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And
And
Council,
I'd like to, thank you. I'd like to suggest that are we going to put it on the Parks agenda then? Councilmember Walsh, can you do that? For the 5,000 for the gardens?
Sure.
So, Ryan? So in order to keep it clean, you said that put it on a future agenda?
Brian or Ryan, I'm sorry.
Well, either one. I'm good.
What's the question?
Well, so we want 5,000 for the gardens. And how can do we need to put it through committee or just bring it straight to council?
Either way would work.
why don't we do this? I'll have Brian work with Steve Groom
Okay.
perhaps there's unallocated or not, unused, either salary savings or something in the general fund where we can move some funds around. Councilmember Honda?
Before we do that, I think it would be a good idea to reach out to the folks running the gardens to see what their needs are. Before we just, having $900 sit in this fund, we certainly want it, every penny used.
Sure.
But we do need to see what their needs are, and maybe they don't need 5,000, who knows?
That there are definitely needs, I mean, just for seats alone. And there's some management changes in the garden also.
But we should ask instead of just.
Yeah, that's true.
Keith?
We'll follow up with the senior center.
Have your folks follow up tomorrow. Thank you very much. All right. Councilmember Honda, were you going to read the, I'm sorry, Councilmember Sapadowson?
Yeah, I don't think we should ask agencies if they want to do something, or if they want money, unless they come to us. And so I think we're setting a precedence where we're encouraging people to say, I need this and I need this money, when nobody asked us for it. So I have a concern about doing it that way. And the $900 could go, we still have 2 years. Anybody could need that money and could come with a request, rather than us making that assumption and moving forward with nobody asking us for it.
All right.
I don't feel comfortable doing that.
All right, thank you. Duly noted. The motion passed, the funding passed 5-0. Councilmember Walsh excused, Councilmember Tran is excused. Thank you very much, Keith. All right, item C, confirmation of independent salary commission appointment. Seeking reappointment is Kenneth Pratt. Council President Kochmar.
I move to confirm the mayor's appointment of Kenneth Pratt to the Independent Salary Commission for a term to expire February 28, 2028.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Matter passed unanimously. Item D, Lodging Tax Advisory Committee appointments. Councilmember Sapadowson. Lodging Tax, LTAC, appointments.
I'm not used to doing this part, so sorry. I move the following appointments to the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee. Chris Jordan to a voting position for a term to expire October 31, 2025. Stacia Winters to a voting position for a term to expire October 31, 2026. Janie Boubet to a voting position for a term to expire October 31, 2026. Travis Ochoa to a voting position for a term to expire October 31, 2025. And Juliana Moroquin to a voting position for a term to expire October 31, 2026. Sorry.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been a motion, a second, for those aforesaid motion or appointments. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Appointments are unanimous. All right, item E, North Lake Management District Committee appointments. Councilmember Dovey.
I move the following appointments to the North Lake Management District Advisory Committee. Lori Sechrist as a voting member for a term to expire March 31, 2027. Terry Thomas II, a voting member for a term to expire March 31, 2027. and Brian Honey as a voting member for a term to expire March 31, 2027.
Second.
Been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion for the appointments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those three appointments are confirmed unanimously. Item F, Planning Commission appointment. Councilmember Dovey.
I move the appointment of Mary Schultz to the Planning Commission as a voting member for a term to expire September 30, 2028.
Second.
All right. There's been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The appointment is unanimous. Item G, Human Services Commission appointments. Councilmember Walsh.
I move the following appointments to the Human Services Commission. Howard Stoles as voting member for a term to expire January 31, 2028, and Mary Schultz as a voting member for a term to expire January 31, 2028.
Second.
It's been a motion, a second, for those two appointments. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The two appointments are unanimous. Item H, Arts Commission appointments. Councilmember Walsh.
I move the following appointments to the Arts Commission. Cindy Dusich is a voting member for a term to expire December 31, 2026, and Tom Briesel as an alternate member for a term to expire December 31, 2027.
Second.
It's been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The two appointments are unanimous, confirmed. Item 9, ordinances. First reading. Item A, Council Bill 899, ordinance, Easy Fiber Texas LLC franchise. First, we'll have a presentation by Cole Elliott, our Development Services Manager. Then we'll have opportunity for public comment, and then we'll go from there. But before we go any further, Mr. Elliott, the Development Services Manager today, is here on his birthday. So let's wish him a big happy birthday. Thank you for sharing your special evening with us. Hope you're doing something fun tomorrow.
Take the day off.
Actually, it was yesterday.
All right.
I thank you. Yeah, I took advantage of our day off.
Very good. All right. With that, Cole, the floor is yours.
As soon as I can figure this thing out.
You're welcome.
Okay, where to go? There it is. Okay. There we go. All right. There. Which one? Okay, thank you. There we go. Sorry about the delay.
No problem.
I'm
Hey,
here
we're-
about the
we're-
Easy
we're on your
Fiber
time.
ordinance. I'm showing my age. We're here about the Easy Fiber franchise ordinance. The policy question that we started off with is, should the city grant Easy Fiber a franchise ordinance to place fiber telecommunications and related appurtenances within the city limits, within the city's right-of-way? Background, Easy Fiber requested the franchise from the city of Federal Way in order to place fiber optic in the city right-of-way, and they paid their $5,000 deposit for administration and staff time. The term of the franchise is for the typical 10 years, which is similar to every other franchise that we grant. The options that were considered was to recommend adoption of the proposed franchise ordinance and move it forward to tonight, or do not adopt the proposed ordinance and provide us with direction. The mayor and the Land Use and Transportation Committee both recommended forwarding on to tonight's reading. Questions?
Wow, that was short and sweet.
Yeah,
Council?
I try to keep it easy.
All right. Cole, I don't see any questions. Well, why don't you stay close, just in case. Do we have any public comment?
No, Mayor, I have no one signed up.
All right, would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 899, Ordinance Easy Fiber Texas LLC franchise, an ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington, granting Easy Fiber Texas LLC a non-exclusive franchise to occupy rights of way of the City of Federal Way, Washington within the specified franchise area for the purposes of constructing, maintaining, operating, replacing, and repairing a telecommunications network within and throughout the City of Federal Way.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Dovey.
Yes, Mayor, I move to forward the proposed ordinance to the March 4th, 2025 council meeting for second reading and enactment.
Second.
It's been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Matter passes unanimously. Great job. Thank you, Cole. Why don't you take the rest of the night off?
Oh, thank you.
That was funny maybe a couple of years ago. Have I used that line too much? All right. All right, we are now down to council reports. It's the second meeting of the month, so we'll start at council position number 7. Councilmember Dovey.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a comment on the mayor's speech that we had the other night, and although it was a great speech, I really wanted to comment on how great it was to see all the nonprofits in the hallway at at our center. I had no idea we had that many in Federal Way. I met a lot of very passionate people that are doing a lot of good works in our city. So I wanted to thank the mayor and the staff and everybody else who brought all the nonprofits together and gave people a forum to talk about their passions and what they do for our community. And so I thought that was one of the better meetings I've attended in all the years I've been in the city council, because it really showed how passionate people in Federal Way are to help others. So thank you.
Thank you. And I was remiss in one major point. One of the linchpins to make sure this happened without a hitch, obviously, you've got Thomas and all the IT stuff, but Pam Jones, my executive assistant, did a phenomenal job. I'm going to have to play this portion of the meeting for first thing tomorrow morning. But she did a great job. And I appreciate everybody being there and all the staff. But anyway, Councilmember Walsh.
Yeah, just also, I'd like to agree with Councilmember Dovey, a very good speech on part of the mayor. I think it was his best State of the City speech that I've heard him give. Gave credit to a lot of people that credit are due, and all the people that were there, all the nonprofits and all the attendants that were there. It really shows the great community spirit that we have in Federal Way, and it's one of the things that shows that Federal Way is indeed a wonderful place to live and to work, and it shows the best side of our city.
Yeah.
And you can show the best side of the city also in on April 26th for Parks Appreciation Day. Get out there and volunteer.
Here, here. You know, we had a guy, one of the pictures during the speech was all the people that were there at the PAC that was fully occupying that staircase. It was just an astonishing number of people. So, yeah, thank you. All right, Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. It's a short meeting tonight. We're not used to that. First of all, I'd like to thank all those who applied to be on commissions and who came for commission interviews tonight. We still have openings, so if you weren't here tonight, you still have a chance to serve on a commission and volunteer and serve your city. I was on 2 commissions before I became a council member, and it's really a very rewarding thing to do. So if you have any questions of what commissions have openings, you can ask any one of us or call the city clerk. We really would like to see more people volunteer, and we are anxious to get your applications. I'd also like to thank the firefighters who went down to California. They left their families and drove a very long time in probably an uncomfortable vehicle, and helped those families and businesses down in California save their homes and businesses. That has to be a really frightening thing to experience. On Saturday, well, we are at the retreat at Dumas Bay, and everyone's invited to attend that. There's going to be a recycling event at Poverty Bay Cafe. And before you recycle or after you recycle, you can come inside Poverty Bay and visit with the Federal Way Seroptimus Club. We're having a Galentine's event where we would like to talk to people and tell them about the club and what we do here in Federal Way, so we hope to see you there. And March 22nd is coffee with the city council and the school board members. This is, I think, our 4th one. It is at Ebony and Ivory from 10 to 12, and we look forward to meeting anyone and everyone there. Thank you very much.
Councilmember McDaniel.
Yeah, first I'd like to start with the state of the city. I was able to sneak in the back door and sit up in the nosebleed section, and from up there, there's actually a great view. It's actually sitting way up on the top, you have a great view of everything. So it's not really a bad seat in the house, which I really appreciated. It was also nice to see, like other council members had mentioned, the turnout of people who just came just to talk and show up, and the amount of vendors and stuff. I'm looking forward to the retreat. We're going to talk about money, which I do enjoy talking about, so I'm looking forward to that factor. And then on a different note, though, during one of our interviews this morning, or this afternoon, or I guess it was this evening, I'll get my times right, it was mentioned that one of the hotels has had, I don't know if it's the normal or at least to me a concerning amount of break-ins, 22 or 23 in 1 month. So I would definitely like to see some blue light cameras put in positions that might be more usefulness in that downtown core, especially with the hotels and stuff like that. So that's definitely something I'd like to see that we take a deeper look into.
And let's not say it on air, but Chief, when we get done with the meeting, can we coordinate? I'd like you to be able to get that information.
Gotcha.
And we'll follow up with our management, and we'll talk about getting one of the cameras out there. Thank you. Councilmember Sepa Dawson?
Yeah, to keep it short, I have no report tonight.
Yay. I mean, that's great. I mean, but if you did,
I came
that's
back
okay
from
too.
a long trip, so.
Okay, all right. Council President Kochmar, what do you got?
I think it's time to go home.
I hear-
Very hard. Thank you.
There's a second. All those are, yeah, exactly. All those in favor? All right, you guys, thank you so much. It's an honor and a privilege to work with each one of you. Thank you, staff, and thank you, members of the public, for being here and participating. We are adjourned.